Block 1. The Unheeded Prophecy of Eunice Foote. Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, we're digging up a story buried so deep in the archives of history, it feels more like a secret than a forgotten fact. We're talking about a prophecy, a scientific warning issued over 160 years ago that predicted the single greatest challenge of our modern era. Imagine someone accurately describing the mechanism of climate change, not in the 1980s, not even in the 1950s, but in 1856. That is the astonishing story of the American scientist Eunice Newton Foote, the woman who discovered the greenhouse effect only to have her work and her warning almost completely erased by the scientific establishment of her time. This isn't just a curious historical footnote, it's the story of a monumental mistake, a 160-year delay on a conversation that now defines our future. To truly grasp the magnitude of her discovery, we have to transport ourselves back to the mid-19th century, the year 1856. The Industrial Revolution is gathering steam, powered by coal. Factories are beginning to choke the skies of London, Manchester, and New York with smoke. But the prevailing scientific view of the atmosphere was that it was an infinite, unchanging expanse. The idea that humanity's nascent industrial activity could fundamentally alter the thermal properties of the entire planet was simply beyond the realm of imagination. Science itself was largely a gentleman's club, a pursuit for formally educated men in universities and prestigious societies. It was a world with rigid rules, and one of the most unwritten yet strictly enforced rules was about who got to participate. Into this world stepped Eunice Newton Foote. She was not a university professor. Women had little to no access to such institutions. She was what was then called an amateur scientist, an inventor, and, perhaps most importantly, a passionate activist for women's rights. In fact, 8 years earlier, in 1848, she had been a signatory of the Declaration of Sentiments at the first Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls. This context is crucial. Eunice Foote was not just a woman of science, she was a woman who fundamentally challenged the status quo, both in the lab and in society. Her mind was primed to see things others missed, to question assumptions others took for granted. Her groundbreaking work stemmed from a beautifully simple question: what factors affect the heat of the sun's rays? Her laboratory was not a state-of-the-art facility, but most likely a sunny spot in her own home. She took two identical glass cylinders, and into each she placed a sensitive thermometer. In one cylinder, she put ordinary moist air. In the other, she pumped in what was then known as carbonic acid gas, what we now call carbon dioxide, or CO2. She sealed them both and placed them side by side in the direct sunlight. The result was immediate and unambiguous. While both cylinders warmed up, the one containing carbon dioxide became significantly hotter than the one with regular air. And, crucially, when she moved them into the shade, the CO2-filled cylinder took much longer to cool down. It was trapping heat. You can think of it as the first demonstration of the principle that makes a car's interior sweltering on a sunny day. The sun's light energy gets in through the glass, but the heat energy can't get out as easily, and the temperature skyrockets. Foote had just proven that a gas in the atmosphere could do the exact same thing on a planetary scale. But she didn't stop at the observation. She made the critical intellectual leap. In her paper, concisely titled "Circumstances Affecting the Heat of the Sun's Rays," she wrote the prophetic line: "An atmosphere of that gas would give to our Earth a high temperature." There it is, the first clear documented scientific link between carbon dioxide and global warming. So what happened to this revolutionary discovery? Her paper was accepted for presentation at the 1856 annual meeting of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, a huge achievement. But because she was a woman, she was not permitted to present her own research. Instead, the esteemed Professor Joseph Henry of the Smithsonian Institution read her 2-page paper aloud on her behalf. While he praised her work, the very act of a man presenting a woman's findings because of her gender underscored the systemic barriers she faced. The discovery was mentioned briefly in publications like Wired, but it then vanished from the scientific conversation. It was never cited in other major papers and failed to influence the direction of research. Just a few years later, the Irish physicist John Tyndall published his own, more detailed research on heat-trapping gases and is, to this day, widely credited with the discovery. Foote's pioneering work was rendered a historical ghost. This wasn't just an injustice to her, it was a catastrophic missed opportunity for all of us. Imagine an alternate history where her warning was heeded, sparking a century and a half of research into the consequences of burning fossil fuels. Her forgotten paper is a chilling reminder that the cost of prejudice isn't just social injustice, but a collective failure of imagination that can echo for centuries, leaving us to grapple with a future she tried to warn us about. What other historical scientific discoveries do you think were unfairly ignored? Let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more untold stories, and we'll see you in the next one.